World News begins with the former Minister of Sport Solomon Dalong berating President Bola Tinubu over a plea to Nigerians to continue sacrificing for the country. You would recall that President Tinubu, while addressing journalists after observing the Eid al-Kabir prayers at Dodon Barracks in Lagos on Sunday, said Nigeria needs sacrificing citizens to fulfill the dreams of its founding fathers. Reacting, Dalong in a post via his X handle questioned Tinubu's sincerity in the statement, stressing that the president is unaware of the sufferings of the masses. The former minister urged President Tinubu and his cabinet members to lead in the call to sacrifice for the nation so that Nigerians could regard his statement. Solomon said, and quote, "Does President Tinubu know that Nigerians are suffering? Certainly not. His reckless economic policies, wasteful expenditures, plundering of resources, insensitivity to plights of citizens, boastful and egoistic squandering of goodwill, adoption of corruption and nepotism as state policies are the characteristics of his ignoble regime. Sacrifice should begin with at official bat and his jumbo-sized government. Then Nigerians can take him serious. But for now, it's mere rhetorics and propaganda." End quote. Meanwhile, the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, has berated the federal government over the move to acquire new jets for President Bola Tinubu and his deputy Kashim Shettima. You would recall that the House of Representatives Committee on National Security and Intelligence on Friday backed the federal government's plan to purchase new aircraft for Tinubu and Shettima. However, in a statement via his X handle on Monday, Peter Obi cited the current economic hardship bedeviling the nation, stressing the move demonstrates the government's extreme insensitivity to citizens and struggles. The former Anambra state governor described the decision as unacceptable, noting that the situation in the country demands a more compassionate use of resources, prioritizing citizens' welfare. Peter Obi noted that instead of adding to luxuries, the federal government should focus on alleviating the suffering of the masses and finding lasting solutions to their problems. He wrote, and I read, "At a time when our country is trending on the global media for facing its worst economic crisis, marked by high inflation, a falling currency, and widespread poverty, the government's plan to buy new presidential jets demonstrates extreme insensitivity to citizen struggles. With the rising insecurity, poverty, hunger, and homelessness, the decision highlights the disconnect between the government and the people. It is unacceptable and demands a more compassionate use of resources, prioritizing citizens' welfare. It's on record that our presidential jets have an average age of 12 years, purchased when most Nigerians could afford basic necessities. Now, as our country faces significant challenges, including a high debt profile, our citizens are in even greater need. Instead of adding to our luxuries, we should be focused on alleviating their suffering and finding solutions to their problems." End quote. In another development, some youth in the Dagama local government area of Rivers State today stormed the council headquarters following the expiration of the tenure of the local government chairman in the state. You'd recall that the local government chairman in the state, under the aegis of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, have vowed to remain in office, citing the local government amendment law by the Martin Amawale-led 27 House of Assembly members, empowering them to extend their tenure by 6 months. The state ALGON chairman, Ihunda, the chairman of Port Harcourt City local government area, insisted that the law by the House of Assembly empowers them to remain in office. However, the state governor Simfubara warned the local government chairman to avoid doing anything that would truncate the peace of the state over the expiration of their tenure in office. The council chairman elected during the tenure of former Governor Nyesom Wike have been battling with Fubara following the disagreement between the two political leaders. The youth in Dagama occupied the council secretariat, singing songs and insisting that they would not allow the local government chairman to remain in office after 7 hours their tenure or return to the council. The same scenario reportedly occurred in the Asari Toru local government area, where youth stormed the council headquarters and occupied the facility. Meanwhile, the police have stationed armed operatives at the secretaries of 4 local government councils in Rivers State following the expiration of the tenure of the local government chairman in the state. Police vans are currently positioned at the entrances of Port Harcourt City, Obio Akpo, Ahoada East and Ogu Bolo local government areas. The outgoing local government chairman, who are loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, had their tenure extended by an amended local government law number 5 of 2018 by the faction of the State House of Assembly headed by Martin Zamawili. However, the extension was nullified by Rivers State High Court ruling on May 21, 2024, which declared the local government law number 2 of 2024 as inconsistent with the 1999 Constitution. Despite the court ruling, the chairman of Ikwere local government area, Samuel Nwanosike, has vowed to remain in office. 2 local government chairmen from Boni and Opobo Nkoro, who are loyal to Fubara, however, celebrated the expiration of their tenures with a Thanksgiving service on Sunday. Meanwhile, Fubara is yet to release an official list of caretaker committee chairmen to manage the affairs of the various local government areas following the tenure expiration. In another development, the chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Salihu Lukman, has said President Bola Tinubu's declaration of fuel subsidy without putting up any plan was one of his biggest mistakes. VOP News understands that the former National Vice Chairman, Northwest, made this known in an interview via a Monitor television program today. Lukman stated that despite the economic situation in the country, the APC members cannot access Tinubu or influence decisions on what needs to be done in the country. The former APC chieftain noted that if the ruling party does not change its leadership, the masses will be forced to queue behind another leader during the 2027 election. He said, and I quote, "One of the biggest mistakes that President Asiwaju made was making that declaration on his inauguration day, declaring petroleum subsidy was gone without even sitting down to put a plan, and today no plan to respond to that challenge. And that is why the living condition in the country is crashing and the government is just ground standing. All of us in the party have become onlookers. We're not able to even access President Asiwaju and influence decisions in terms of what needs to be done." In a recent development, following the outbreak of cholera in Lagos State and some other states, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has called for extensive measures to protect school children. The UN organization has called for concerted efforts to prevent disruption in the academic calendar over the spread of the disease. The chief of UNICEF Lagos Field Office, Celine Lucaria, who made the call today in a statement, said cholera outbreaks critically affect children and the young population. According to Ms. Laforia, these vulnerable groups face substantial health risk, particularly children and young adults attending school. She noted that children were prone to severe dehydration and high mortality rates. Ms. Laforia, however, solicited adequate awareness across the country to sensitize the populace on the cholera outbreak and preventive measures as part of efforts to address the issue. You're currently listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break, and of course when we return we'll head into our news analysis segment where I'll be joined by Barrister Fred Nzako to respond to some of the questions that we posed to him. Just stay with us. Welcome back. You're still listening to the World News at 6 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I'm being joined by Barrister Fred Nzako, who is a political, national and social affairs commentator. He'll be responding to some of the questions that will be posed to him. Barrister Fred Nzako, good evening and welcome to the World News at 6.
Thank you. Good evening.
Can you hear me, Barrister Fred?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Barrister Fred, happy Eid al-Kabir to you.
Same to you and same to our dear listeners.
All right, Barrister Fred, a lot is actually happening in the Nigerian political landscape, and one of them, of course, is a continuous criticism on the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. A couple of political elites feel that this administration literally does not know what to do, despite the strangulating economy and the suffering of majority of the Nigerian masses. And one of such persons is Solomon Dalong, the former sports minister. Also, Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023. Both of them are talking about the fact that this particular administration is inconsiderate and insensitive, and they are basically referring to the House of Representatives Committee on National Security, asking the federal government to immediately purchase new aeroplanes for the use of President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima. Now, I wanted to bear in mind that the last trip that the president had tried to attend, I think in Dubai, they had an issue with the presidential fleet, and they had to actually hire a private jet, a different one, or a commercial jet, or commercial flight to get to their destination. Do you think this is the right time for the National Assembly to be clamoring for this, despite the fact that Labour is asking the federal government to do something about minimum and living wage, whereby the governors are insisting they can't go beyond 62,000 naira?
There is every reason to criticize the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And the criticism is not only coming from within Nigeria, it's also coming from outside Nigeria. Recently, the New York Times wrote and rated the government as being very insensitive to the sufferings of the people, and that the government has failed to deliver the much touted dividend of democracy. And then the government, instead of thinking of how best to make life better for Nigerians, are more interested in attacking those who bring constructive criticisms against their policies and programs, which has made life very, very difficult for Nigerian people. Now government now seems to be very distant from the people. It is the government officials don't really seem to understand that Nigerians are suffering. The way and manner the government officials live large, the way and manner they spend money, the way and manner they even propose that is interested in the welfare of the people. So it is not unexpected that there will be criticism. Nigerians are suffering. And instead of government officials to think of how best to alleviate the sufferings of the people, they are wasting Nigerians' money. Recently, government went to Switzerland on a conference with the largest contingent.
Can imagine
Just
that.
the same way they did at COP28. And then this is the same government that is spending a whopping 19 billion sponsoring pilgrimage. This same government that has spent so much building and rebuilding houses for top government officials, and even the yacht that they claim that they did not buy, we hear that the yacht has been bought already. Now this is the same government that is now thinking of bringing in two presidential jets, the same one for the president and one for the vice president. Meanwhile, this is the same government that is claiming that there's no money. The president of Kenya flew Kenya Airways. Just last week, flew Kenya Airways and forgot the issue of presidential jets. Most other presidents around the world are doing the same thing. But in our own clan, despite the fact that we have many presidential jets, yes, they want to buy new ones. Meanwhile, Mr. President had brand new private jet he bought for himself before his attendance to the throne of the presidency. And this is a family that says they are very rich, and we know that they are. So where is the sacrifice? Sacrifice in Nigeria is only being done by the masses and not by government. So the such criticism is expected. And more of such criticism will come because this government does not seem to understand what it takes to take the people out of poverty.
Barrister Fred Nzako, the presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, has said that it seems the president is realistically not in the now or the current state of the Nigerian masses. He feels that the president is living on a floating cloud and not necessarily on ground with how the economic situation is strangulating the people. Also, Salihu Lukman, one of the APC chieftain, has been a strong critic of the APC and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I want to ask you something. When the president was campaigning, he used the phrase, let the poor breathe. I recall that was when we're going through the Naira crunch situation where literally Nigerians were falling on the streets and dying. The same person who is asking the poor to breathe literally feels like he's the one choking the poor. Do you think there is a disconnect between what the president says he would do and what is currently at play? It feels like he overpromised and then he's under-delivering. What's your take on how Nigerians feel towards this administration's supposed words and promises, which comes up in flowery terms, but in reality, that is not what is reflecting?
There is a massive disconnect between the sufferings of the people and the flamboyant and large lifestyle of people in government. Massive disconnect. Because there is nothing that shows that the people in government understand that the people in the country are suffering. There's nothing that shows it. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Mr. President has overpromised and terribly under-delivered. Recall that in July last year, Mr. President gave a presidential address and made so many promises. That was when he said that he was going to provide a living wage for the workers.
Yes.
Today, it's an argument that has not ended. That was when he said that he was going to provide CNG buses that will run on gas, compressed natural gas, and bring down the price and the cost of transportation. Today, where are we? That was when he promised the issue of a student loan. Today, the student loan has not taken off, and even the program of the student loan is so stringent that it makes a mockery of the whole process. It does not provide a good face towards that loan and to make it possible for even the poor to benefit from that loan.
Yes.
Everything that this government has promised, none has been delivered. Absolutely none. People who have asked, provide for us what you have delivered. I am one of the people that have been holding on for Mr. President, and I said that we will not criticize this government until 1 year after, because at least it is understood that he made a very terrible economy under Muhammad Buhari. But this sort of economy has been made worse. The borrowing is still continuing. Recently, we just received a $2.25 billion from International Finance Corporation, which is a branch or an arm of the World Bank, which tells you, and that borrowing has now capped our debt profile at over 100 trillion naira. So, if the borrowing has not stopped, this is a government that went and started what they call the Coastal Line Project. A coastal line project that did not have environmental impact assessment. And today, we are hearing that they want to abandon it after demolishing some strategic assets of citizens because of the fact that underground cable passed through where they wanted to build the road.
Yes.
And then we are now asking, why would government act before thinking instead of thinking before acting? So everything about this government shows that, number one, they do not think about the masses. Number two, they do not think through their programs and actions. And number three, they have not started acting like people who want to solve our problems. The way the flamboyant lifestyle of people in government is antithetical to the realization that Nigeria and Nigerians are suffering.
Barrister Fred, let's quickly talk about insecurity. All right. 4,500 Nigerians killed, 7,000 kidnapped in this first year of President Tinubu's administration. Now, we know that insecurity has bedeviled the nation right from the time of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, got worse during the time of former President Muhammadu Buhari. But in the president's inaugural speech on May 29, 2023, the president made a vow to tackle insecurity in the country. He said that would be the first thing, the lingering insecurity in the country. He said he would tackle it. Unfortunately, 1 year after he assumed office, almost all parts of the country still suffer from one form of insecurity or the other. Which brings me to my main question now. All right. One of the elder statesmen has asked the president to, as soon as possible, direct the Attorney General of the Federation, and that person is Chief Edwin Clark, who is the Pan-Delta Forum leader. He said the president should look for a political solution, order the Attorney General of the Federation to ensure that Nnamdi Kanu is released so that the insecurity in the southeast could be quelled. According to him, he said that the charges preferred against him and his involvement and calling for a referendum is his right, and others who have made the same stake have been released. So the question is, with what the president campaigned on during the 2023 elections and when he was inaugurated, what has been experienced now, what happened? Where did he forget what he said? And why the lackadaisical attitude to look for a political resolution towards the situation in the southeast?
It is a very frustrating development to realize that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, an avowed Democrat, would want to toe the same line that a military man, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, told his government. It is not safe to hide under the fact that, it is judiciary that will determine the fate of Nnamdi Kanu. While the judiciary was not allowed to determine the fate of the president of Nietiala, and an avowed terrorist organization that was regarded as the fourth largest terrorist group in the world. It is there by security index of International Security Index. And it is obviously on record that the Attorney General has entered a non-prosecute, which means discontinuance of prosecution against the president of Nietiala. But in Nnamdi Kanu's case, Nigerian courts, 4, including Court of Appeal, have said Nnamdi Kanu should be head of the, and the government is not doing so. 5 other courts around the world, making 9 on the road, have said he should be let to go home, and the government has not done so. Even his application for bail is being frustrated. I mean, what are we talking about? Meanwhile, his continued incarceration continues to create tension in the southeast. The tension in the north has not been solved
at all.
The tension in the north central, northwest, northeast have not been solved. Now there is even more tension being added to the already existing one created by terrorists and bandits.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, these are because of lack of will on the part of government to solve these problems. A country that wants progress would want peace and security for the citizens. Because in the absence of security, there will be no progress. This idea of going around the world asking investors to come in is a waste of time and waste of resources and hypocritical.
Barrister Fred, let me quickly come in here.
If you make the environment conducive, investors will come in.
Barrister Fred, the Nigerian military is considered to be one of the strongest, all right, in Africa. Literally. Why does it seem they are weak-kneed in covering insecurity in the country? There are allegations that there are persons within the Nigerian military who are enabling the consistent insecurity bedeviling in the northeast. And also the situation in the southeast are being sponsored by some political elites for personal gains. We don't know who these individuals are. Now, you would recall that the Zamfara state governor had actually made claims that indeed these supposed bandits, they know where they are. If the Nigerian Military Intelligence Agency know where these individuals are, what is stopping them from flushing them out?
Security experts have said that Nigerian military and Nigerian security forces have capacity to flush out and quench terrorism and banditry in Nigeria in 1 month. In 1 month. That those in authority who should direct such action, when they say those in authority, it might be military authority, it might be political authority, it might be a combination of military and political added to international collaborators who benefit from the solid minerals that are being stolen, which is the basis and the foundation of the terrorism that we see in the northeast and in the north central and part of northwest. Now, in the combination of all these personalities have made the fight against insurgency and the fight against terrorism and banditry almost a Herculean task that has refused to end. It does not, even military tacticians themselves have said that these ragtag men that call themselves bandits and terrorists cannot match them force for force. Recall that government said that they were going to bring in Kanu jets.
Yes.
And that once Kanu jets came in, that would be the end. That would be.
Barrister Fred, those jets were bought. Those nukes were bought.
Kanu jets came in, 6 of them, and later another 6, and the story is still continuing. What is going on in Nigeria are properly, completely man-made problems.
Barrister Fred, do you realize that just 2 weeks ago in Borno State, ISWAP gathered young persons in the community to seduce them to join their group? Now, this gathering did not hold at night. It was in broad daylight that these individuals did what they did, where they were seducing the young persons in their communities to join the Boko Haram. And according to them, they're promising them that when they join, they're going to flush out the corruption in government. They'll no longer go through the insecurity or hunger bedeviling the states. Apparently, you can tell that the idea is to literally overtake that particular axis or that location, or then generally the entire north, to establish a certain caliphate. And do you want to tell me that after this news was out, that the Nigerian military, the Nigerian Defense Department, or their intelligence agency couldn't go to those areas and see how they could, map out those individuals? Or is it that they do not have the necessary weaponry to do the needful? What exactly is happening?
They are spending their energies in the southeast. That's all. They have diverted the attention of Nigerians, and the whole intelligence and security apparatus of Nigeria are more interested in what is going on in the southeast. Where even if you cough in your house, they'll come and pick you up and say you are an IPOC person, because it is the low-hanging fruit of propaganda for them, whereas the major theater of terror, where even security operatives have admitted that there are parallel governments in the north where they have taken over some local governments and some communities up to today, where people will pay tax to terrorists and bandits in order to even go to farm. And meanwhile, President Muhammad Buhari, former President Buhari, has said in his other message that Nigerians should pay attention to agriculture.
Yes.
And as if he didn't know what the problem is today. The land is there, still fertile, but people cannot go to the farm on account of the insecure situation that we have. And then, out of hypocritical statement, former president was now telling Nigerians to go and pay attention to agriculture and population control. I mean, how much hypocritical can a leader be?
All right.
And what is the cause of the famine that we have today? Nigeria is undergoing famine. What else is famine?
And insecurity is playing a huge role in that.
No, it's insecurity that is causing the famine.
Exactly.
It is not a natural disaster. It is man-made disaster that has not allowed people to farm.
All
if
right,
you
Barrister.
don't farm, you cannot harvest. If
All
you
right,
don't
Barrister.
harvest, you go hungry.
All right, finally, right, there is a cholera outbreak in Lagos and other states. Now, it's quite surprising that a supposed modern city or an urban area as Lagos is going through a cholera outbreak. Butchers at the abattoir are complaining significantly of, the state of the market. We used to have a monitoring committee or a group like that, or a sector in Lagos that goes to all those markets and inspect the hygienic practice of these markets? What happened to them? Number two, where is a national orientation agency? To this point that we're going through a cholera outbreak, UNICEF is asking that this should be controlled so that students will be able to complete their school curriculum for the year. What's your take on that?
Every Nigerian is guilty of this uncleanliness that we have in our environment. Every Nigeria, both government and the people. The people themselves would see what is wrong and do it. Must everybody be police at all times? Can't we keep our environment clean? It is our responsibility. Must government come and keep our environment clean? Government has its own duty, and the people have their own duty. And unfortunately, we should know that the people in government care less about the people that they are leading. And that is why, look, as rich as Lagos is, do you have potable water in Lagos that you can trust?
In fact, people are actually digging their own boreholes. Most houses now build their own boreholes.
And the other sources of water from their borehole. Whereas in advanced countries that places that are not even as sophisticated as Lagos, the easiest thing any government can give to the people is potable water. That's not to be in our environment. So while the government is not doing what it should do, the people are also not helping themselves to keep the environment clean. You talk about National Orientation Agency. That agency is now moribund. I think we have talked enough about the death of NOA.
Yes.
NOA, and I think I have challenged some people that work there, and they said they are being intentionally starved of funds to operate. I think that is the truth. How do you blame them? Are they going to use their meager salary to go and mount public campaign and do what they are supposed to do? I think it is an intentional act by government to keep starving the NOA so that the people will not be adequately educated and informed. And in that case, what is wrong continues to be wrong. And when you expect that the right thing should be done, you're not getting it. When NCDC
okay.
When there is cholera, we expect that NCDC should talk.
Yes.
We should attack it because cholera is a deadly disease.
It is. Meanwhile, during Ebola and COVID, they were very active.
If you kill more, if action is not taken. But I want to urge Nigerians that if you look up to government, you will fail. Take care of yourself, protect your environment, and let us have a clean and safe environment so that we will not continue to die.
Especially in our markets and areas where we buy purchased fruits. It's important that this hygienic practice should be practiced by all and not necessarily left for government to do whatever it is that they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fred Nzako, for taking your time to respond to the questions of the World News at 6. We sincerely do appreciate you. All right. To wrap up the world news at 6 here again, now the top stories. You heard that Solomon Dalong criticizes President Tinubu over demand from Nigerians. Peter Obi blasts federal government over plans to acquire new aircraft for Tinubu Shetima. Tension in Rivers as youth storm local government secretariat, protest chairman's tenure extension. Police take over Rivers local government secretariat amid tension over chairman's tenure. Lukman reveals one of Tinubu's biggest mistakes, and UNICEF warns of cholera risk to school children, urges nationwide preventive efforts. That's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wajuku. Good evening and thank you for listening.
From the views on the streets,
we go to bed empty hunger,
to the blaring